Salutations everyone, and welcome to my summary and analysis of EVO 2016 Melee. Boy, what a tournament did we have. So many storylines going into top 8. Was it going to be Return of the King? Was it going to be Plup taking out every single god in attendance to win it, which he went halfway through? Was it going to be Mango with the 3-vo? Was it going to be Armada matching Mango's 2 EVOs, or was it going to be Hungrybox after finishing 3rd and 2nd and 2nd, the last 3 EVOs? This, the year of the Puff, his year, he's winning all these majors. Who is it going to be? None other than Liquid's own Juan Hungrybox de Biedma. It was one of the greatest runs in Melee history, getting sent to losers right out of top 8 by Plup, having to go through him again, having to go through S2J, having to go through Mango, and having to beat Armada twice in grand finals, 3-2, 3-2. One of the craziest grand finals ever. It was insane. Such high-level play from all the contestants. And it was one hell of a tournament. Hungrybox establishing himself as the greatest player in the world in the biggest Super Smash Bros. Melee tournament of all time. The most entrants ever. You had everybody in attendance outside of Leffen, because visa things, and on the grandest stage of EVO in Mandalay Bay, and he clutched it out. And then we have Armada, your defending champion, in 2nd place. Then Plup, the biggest surprise of the tournament, first taking out Mango and sending him to losers, then sending Hungrybox to losers. So he finishes in a super strong 3rd place. And then you have Mango in 4th, and in 5th place, you have Mewtwo King, another big surprise, S2J, coming off that new sponsorship. And I think these were this tournament and his last one, his 2 best tournaments ever. And it's really good to see him playing at such high level. And then Mewtwo King there as well. And then 7th, we had West Balls and Pew Pew U, which was really cool to see in a top 8 with, beating out the likes of Duck, Swedish Delight, Shroomed, Zhu, Nintendo, Drug Fox, Lucky, Cobalt, Axe, and just so many people. And he ends up in top 8 as well. So let's start off with S2J. Your Captain Falcon main starts out 2-0 on Javi, then a 2-1 on Drug Fox, a 2-0 on Duck, which was just super impressive, the amount of damage he was able to put on and just put him away, and then a 2-0 on West Balls, one of the less likely outcomes in this whole tournament. West Balls beating him 11 times in a row. He hasn't lost to S2J in over 2 years, hasn't lost to a Captain Falcon in 2 or 3 years, a guy that he plays all the time and always beats, and S2J 2-0s him, and it was crazy. He was doing very good edge guarding, those up airs off the platform to get the West Balls off stage, hitting those knees, and the down air spike at the end of the first game. It was clean, it was crisp, he was playing perfect in that game. And then he had Mewtwo King, 2-0's Gravy, 2-0's Swedish Delight, and then he loses to Armada in one of the closer sets, of course these being best 2 out of 3. Not ideal in a top 8 situation with these high caliber players present, with only best of 5s being winners, losers, and grands. So out of the entire tournament, the closest ones that might have had different outcomes if they were best of 5s would have been Plup Mango and Mewtwo King Armada. Those were close games that could have gone either way in certain on the first game with Armada and Mewtwo King, where he just wasn't spacing everything out properly. Armada was doing a fantastic job at landing. Like, his landings were just crisp and clean, and Mewtwo King couldn't get the range right. He wasn't able to call out all of the different ways that Armada went back to the stage, and that was ultimately his undoing. And then going up against Mango, he loses 2-1, and which was also one of the closer matches out of the best of 3s out there. So those would be, your 3 that might have played a little bit different. But Mango, 2-0's Ice, 2-0's Zhu, a 2-1 on Pew Pew, which gave him plenty of practice to take on Mewtwo King's Marth, and he beat him 2-1 as well. But, of course, he was sent to losers by Plup, who also 2-1 Javi, and he 2-0'd HBox. That was very, very insane to see Plup 2-0 HBox, a guy who beats him on a consistent basis. This is not a matchup that is very much in Sheik's favor, especially how she comes off of the ledge where Hungrybox could just read rest, but his spacing and his timing on his aerials were perfect, to which he wasn't ever in a position for HBox to get those edge guards off of him, and Plup was able to hit those needles like we saw previously in the last time they met was a close match, but a victory in HBox's favor. Plup's edge guarding with those needles were crisp, and he was taking his jumps away at the absolute perfect times, but unfortunately on the run back, HBox had an answer for him and 3-1'd him. But of course we have Armada looking for the back-to-back championships. 2-1's Lucky, 2-0's Duck. Real good match against Duck there, which some people might have expected to be a bit closer. Then a 2-0 versus M2K. Once again, it was landing options out the get-go, hitting those perfect, daring and air punishes. And when Armada faced Plup in winners finals, which is I don't think something that anybody had in their bracket, he 3-0's Plup. The Swedish sniper with those turnips, man. Turnips, won that match easily for Armada. He was doing a fantastic job on just keeping him off stage and just waiting for a bad get-up or a bad landing and, hitting him up in the air, into which Plup couldn't get within range to punish some of Armada's aerials or landings, to which Plup in Game 3 switched over to the Fox, which definitely I think plays more into Armada's favor, because Armada has, of course, everyone in the world has plenty of Fox matchup, but he was trying to look to give him something different, change up his timing, as people do, but Armada not fooled, way too much knowledge in that matchup, and was able to take Game 3 very, very cleanly. But your champion of the world, HBox, trending on Twitter, on Yahoo Esports, all these articles being written about him. He had the best run throughout anybody in the tournament. He had the great storyline of finishing third in the first EVO for Melee on the grand stage, and then back-to-back second places. He was able to take Mango out of losers again, to once again try to get a rematch against Armada, but he would have to beat him twice. And he starts out by 2-0 and chillin', then 2-1 versus Shroomed, then a crisp 2-0 versus S2J, which was never close because, Captain Falcon's just garbage recovery. He needs one opportunity to punish, and then he just takes the entire stock. And then versus Mango, it looked a little shaky there in the first game, but Hungrybox definitely just churned it up and carrying that victory's momentum into taking out Plup 3-1, got him in the right mindset to challenge Armada in grand finals. Against Mango was going for a lot of, safe nairs into follow-up options. I felt like he was giving Hungrybox a little bit too much of the ledge. He wasn't contesting him a bit when things got close. He would try to play it safe, especially what we saw in the final game. He wasn't going for those Armada down tilts from last year's EVO off of the ledge. He was trying to space out for a back air, or attempt to do the drop down shine spike, which I don't think Hungrybox was far away enough to be a viable option at that point. Hungrybox he definitely needed to turn it up. After losing to Plup, we had confidence that he was going to beat S2J, but once it came to, he had to beat Mango, and then he would have to get the salty run back through Plup, and then take out Armada twice, we knew he had to change some things. He had to get the rest back onto the board, because that's the way he's going to be able to defeat Fox. Either get those comebacks, which he needed, especially versus Armada in those 6 wins. I think 4 of them were comebacks. So he needed the rest on the table. He needed to get those tech mix-ups opportunities on the platforms. And versus Mango, I really do not agree with Mango's decision to go for Pokemon Stadium there in Game 3 on his counter pick. Mango has been having so much luck on Yoshi's story when it comes to those counter picks on tournament point. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Pokemon Stadium is not the counter pick against Hungrybox. Hungrybox wins on Pokemon Stadium. He beats Mango there. He beats Armada there, and sometimes Mewtwo King. But against Mango, Yoshi's Story is the counter pick to go there because the numbers are in Mango's favor, and when you go to Pokemon Stadium, they're in Jigglypuff's favor. I think they are, just because of the way that Hungrybox is able to, with that more space than he would have with Yoshi's Story, he can do much more on the ledge, and he also has better opportunities off of those platforms when the Pokemon Stadium is in its neutral stance. And you have the randomization of the transformations, but for the most part during the neutral game, he was just able to do more against Mango than I think he would have been able to do on Yoshi's Story. So I don't know what Mango was thinking with the recent success that he's had on Yoshi's Story for the counter pick. He goes Pokemon Stadium, and Hungrybox does what Hungrybox does, and he was Clutch Box. He wasn't Hangrybox, he wasn't just H-Box, he was Clutch Box, and that's what he needed to be. And against Plup, to get that run back after losing 0-2 on winner's side, to beat him 3-1 on losers, what we saw was his aerial speed changing up a little bit to where Plup couldn't start off with those nairs into follow-ups off of that. So he was changing up Plup's timing, and once he got that lead, Plup felt like he had to do something, so Plup was being more aggressive, and you saw Hungrybox just letting him doing it. All he did was stand there and bait out his approach, and he would punish that with grabs and rests and pound into platform text mix-up setups. And that's what we saw in the final game especially. Plup felt like he was behind, he felt like he needed to do something, and Hungrybox just baited and punished every single opportunity, and he was able to close that one out 3-1. But the grand finals of grand finals, which I think made this EVO, the run back from last year's EVO, he took out Mango, he took out Plup, who sent him to losers, and now he has to go up against Armada, the #1 ranked player in the world right now, defending EVO champion. He has to beat him twice, and he did it. In the first set, he goes up 2-0. It looks like it's going to be an easy reset, and the story just unfolded from there. Armada gets a clean 2-0 right back, and it looks like he's going to get that reverse 3-0 on winner's side and close it out, especially with the 2-stock lead on the final game on Battlefield. But Hungrybox just transformed into Clutch Box and never let go. That was one of the craziest comebacks on a stage that we have seen, and it was just absolute clutch. The way he was spacing out those bears, to which he didn't give Armada an opportunity because his timing was absolutely perfect. All Armada could do was perfect shield or jump over and through platforms, to which Hungrybox would find openings, and he was getting more grabs than Armada was. You would take a look at when they would go to Pokemon Stadium, to which Armada and Mewtwo King have better luck with Hungrybox than Mango does historically, or at least recently. Hungrybox was able to get more grabs, so the up throw, the up air wasn't as big of a deal, even though it'll kill earlier with that low ceiling at 49% starting on Pokemon Stadium. He was getting more off of grabs, getting those back throws off of stage, and he was finishing his edge guards. With that Fox setup, of course, he has to read, is he going to side B or is he going to up B? And he was giving Armada a little bit of space to land on stage, to which he punished maybe half of the time. But when it came to going off stage, you would see trades with side B, or side Bs where Armada would get the edge. But when Hungrybox would miss one of his options, whether it be a forward smash off the ledge or an aerial read, he would land back and cover his own option off of that miss. And it was just so impressive to see. And he was able to clutch out that 2-stock deficit, and he had the rest on deck, killing at perfect percentages. Because he was at kill percent for 2 stocks in a row on Battlefield. He had to SDI an up throw up air near the top platform. Otherwise, EVO is over and Armada gets back-to-back championships. And when Hungrybox is going to DI, when he jumps in his chair. If he jumps in his chair, he SDIs that up air every single time. When he doesn't, he's almost never going to SDI that. So he needed to do that, and he needed to get the aerial setup to get it to a 1-stock apiece, and then with that huge percentage deficit, we knew that rest was one of the best opportunities at his disposal, and he was able to get the tech platform setup, mix up, and he clinched it, and it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. It was insane. And then you go back to the bracket reset where he had to come back from lost stock opportunities, and then he gets a clean 3-1 against him, and then Armada takes him to final destination, and he gets a clean 3-1, and then you had the first game in the second set where Armada SDs on this first stock, but he makes the comeback. It was a fantastic set, both of them, and it was only fitting that it ended 3-2, 3-2, with the final match being on Pokemon Stadium, where Hungrybox had the answer and clutched it out like the true god that he is. One of the greatest runs ever in Melee, one of the greatest grand finals you'll ever see. The back and forth, one would dominate, the other would dominate, one would come back, the other would come back, and it was just such nail-biting moments in those final stocks and final games in those sets, especially the first one, which was such a clutch moment. And then once again in game 3 in the second set, and then game 4, Hungrybox took it out nice and clean, didn't let anything get to him, and he's now, I would think would be safe to say, the #1 player in the world. His goal this year, getting EVO, revenge against Armada, and doing it in the most grand fashion possible. Congratulations, Hungrybox, on your EVO victory. You're #1, man.